Proverbs, if you would then. Chapter 29. As we look at this morning, trying to relate that we should labor together with one another, and serving the Lord together, and realize that we are in this together as a body, God's people and a nation. We work together, as I tried to say. I want to kind of go with what Brother Mike was saying, the one being willing to help someone else, being willing to help someone in need, not analyzing why they got there, not analyzing what put them there, or not breaking down, but just be willing to help and to need together. I want us to look at something that may prevent us from doing such. And in Proverbs 29 and in 23, a man's pride shall bring him low, but honor shall uphold the humble in spirit. I do want to go ahead and look at pride this evening a little bit, and just pulling this out, but a pride should bring us low. What will pride always do? Pride will fall, and pride will all these things will uplift themselves. Sometimes, as Brother Michael looked at helping someone in need, as we have it, our pride can prevent us from helping someone. I don't want to risk getting associated with them. I don't want to be related to that. Again, our pride will affect lots of things we do. We want to lift ourselves up, the less we're willing to bend down and help someone else. You get yourself so high that you can't reach down. So I want us to think about our pride this evening and how much that we have, and do we keep it in place? We realize that how humble we are. The second portion of this passage was the honor shall uphold the humble in his spirit. So again, pride will prevent you from working together with others, because you feel like I don't need them. I don't need them. I want us to realize that we do need each other, and we need each other. Pride will prevent you from reaching out and accepting help. As visiting with Zach a little bit this morning, it reminded me as I was over these notes. I related to him, and most of you all may remember, but the first couple of lessons we had were Matthew and Mason. Remember them? Remember when they came into our home, how they came to be in our home? They came to be in our home because there was a death in the home they were in. There was a little girl in their home that ended up shaken and died. And then there was other kids hurt in the home too, bruised upon them. They came from a very traumatized, very, very bad situation. That little girl did die in the home. And prior to all that happening, the caseworker had been in. The caseworker had talked to the mother in the home, and saw the signs of being overwhelmed, saw the signs that she was reaching her capabilities, and she had offered her help. The caseworker had offered her help to say, hey, maybe we can get you some time off here. We can get the kids in a home for a while for respite. Maybe we can do this. The caseworker had offered her. There's an initial sequence of steps there. So the caseworker saw her have a need. She offered help through the need. And what do you think she would do, like most of us would do? Hey, I see you being overwhelmed, taking care of these kids. Let us get you some help. And the mother was like, no, I got this. No, I got this. It's okay. No, I got this. No, I got this. She was too prideful to admit, hey, I need help. And because she refused help, her overwhelmness took further down the road. She did things she never would have done. A little baby died. And sometimes our pride will kill people around us too. When you don't get the help you need, you try to do something by yourself. Again, pride will make you feel like you got this. Pride will end up making you think you can do it by yourself. Pride will affect us so much that it comes to so many things. Sometimes we need help. And it will not only just affect us, it can affect others. And hopefully we always realize the word affect with an A and effect with an E, we do to each other at all times. We affect each other and we effect each other at all times. And pride can make us do things and lift us up, and pride can make us not ask for help when we need help, and we can affect others. Again, what if we spiritually kill someone because we're too prideful to admit we made a mistake? Sometimes humbleness, sometimes acknowledging of, hey, I'm just as weak as you are, I need God as much as you do, goes a lot further than I'm better than you are. Admitting, hey, we all need help. The humbleness of admitting you need help, people will help and let you to help. But a prideful heart, a prideful arrogance, a prideful attitude, a prideful spirit, a prideful demeanor, all this stuff, it will bring you low, but how many others is going to bring low in the process? 14. This chapter, John the Baptist was beheaded. Jesus feeds 5,000. After he feeds the 5,000, they send around the other side. And let's start verse 22 of Matthew 14. And straightway Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship and to go before him unto the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray. And when the evening was come, he was there alone. But the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. And in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went into them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, It is a spirit. And they cried out for fear. But straightway Jesus spake to them, saying, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. But Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me to come unto thee on the water. And he said, Come. And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. Can you imagine what that would have been like? Can you imagine how the experience of walking on water in the middle of the storm, to see Jesus, think it was the Spirit, know that it's Jesus, accept that it was Jesus, want to go be with Jesus. He says, Come, you step out of the water. When you took a few steps on water, what would be in your mind? What would you think? Hey, I'm walking on water. Hey, I'm walking on water just like Jesus. And then when he does that, verse 30, but when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried, saying, Lord, save me. But first, I'm walking on water. Wait, I'm walking on water. There's a storm. I'm walking on water. There's a storm. He stopped relying upon Jesus and thinking of what he was doing, and then he begins to sink. He took his eyes off Jesus, looked at the storm. He began to sink. But when he began to sink, what does he say? Verse 31 says we'll back up, I don't get too far down. He said, verse 30, Lord, save me. A humblest request, admitting, Lord, save me. You got to ask for help at times. If he would not have asked for help, what do we think would have happened? Was Jesus waiting to the last minute to save him? Or was Jesus waiting for him to admit he wanted help? Again, I think he was waiting on the ask. We ask, Lord, save us. So he does bring him up, verse 31, immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand, caught him, said unto him, O thou little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? And when they were come into the ship, they were seized. I'm going to sidetrack on to the sermon on this. I hope you remember they preach often about when Peter walked on water, Christ put him back in the ship where he belonged. He put him back in with the others. We belong with each other, not out by ourselves. That does kind of go off this morning's message. We need to be together. Christ put him back into the ship where he belonged, in the fellowship. Fellowship, fellows in the same ship. Put him back in the boat with him instead of out by himself. But read this to a point, Lord, save me. It is humble to say, I need help. It's a little humbling to ask God to save us, but you realize that most of us find it easier to ask God for help than we do others for help? It's easy to ask God for help. But it's not so easy to ask others for help. But how does God most of the time answer your pleas for help? By sending someone else. Don't he? Don't he use us to help others? So again, it's easy for us to say, Lord, help me. But then when the Lord sends someone to help us, we're like, no, I don't need your help. No, I don't need your help. I got this. No, I got this. We need to be willing to accept that. We need to be in the group, as I looked at this morning. Laborer, are putting something together and we're willing to help others. We are helping one another. In Galatians 6, there's certain passages in the Bible that we know, most of us can quote, passages that when we read, that we put ourselves on one side of the verse. And in this passage in Galatians 6:1, I'm sure we've been reading it, brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such a one in the spirit of meekness, consider thyself, lest thou also be tempted, bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. Why is it? We'll read those two verses. How often do you consider yourself as the one needing to be helped? Or do you automatically consider yourself as the one that's helping somebody else? We automatically read that, brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such a one in the spirit of meekness, consider thyself, lest thou also be tempted. We read that, and we think, yes, I'm prepared, Lord, to help somebody else in need. Yes, Lord, I'm prepared to help someone in need. Yes, Lord, I'm prepared to help someone else bear their burdens. Why do we never consider we're the one that needs someone to help us bear our burdens? Why don't we realize sometimes we're the weaker brethren that needs to be helped? Thank you. When was the last time you thought about it when you read the passage? We all make this assume we're the helpers. We're the one that needs to be the help. I think often about Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 12, when it talks about the church body, needing members yet one body, where there's all these different gifts. You know, as you go through the list there of things that come body, the pastors, the teachers, the apostles, you come on down to the governments, and then there's another one called helps, right? There's a gift of helps inside the church. If there's going to be some helps, there's a helper, or there's always a helpee. Someone needs to be helpee. What good is a helpee without a helper? You know, what good is a helper without a helpee? Someone needs something done. And it's going to be a revolving cycle. Sometimes we're the ones that needs help. Sometimes we're the one doing the help. But it is a revolving. Verse 6, chapter 6, verse 1, it concluded with, consider thyself, lest thou also be tempted. Sometimes we need each other. And then verse 3 says, for if a man think himself to be something, when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself. There's the proverb. You know, pride comes before the fall. Pride to make you low. All these things about pride, as we know. But how often do we realize there are times we need to be helped? There's times I need to admit I'm the weaker one, that I need help. I need prayer. I need strength. I need time away. What was it that Christ showed the example for when he sent the disciples on the other side and cleared away, and he went off alone? There's nothing wrong with going off and being quiet. And one of the hardest things I ever had to learn to do was when you say no, and some of you question if I still know how, and so do I. Sometimes I struggle saying no, but there's nothing wrong with taking time off on your own. You can't do everything. Sometimes it's good to admit, sorry, I can't help. You know, pride will prevent you from seeking the help you need to gain the strength that you need. In Romans 1, Romans chapter 1, about a portion of this passage, realizing there's a small little list here. Verse 29, just read this list of Romans 1:29, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisper, backbiters, haters of God, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful, who knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. We're going to read a list and pull off the bad things that we wouldn't do, but look over the things that we're okay with. And we realize about the liars and other passages, but here the what was it we read in verse 30? Proud. Boasters come with that. Proud, again, it's not a good thing to be. It's right up there with all other kinds of things we even look down our nose at. When we think are bad, pride is not a good thing, not even close. It will prevent us from serving God. It can actually hurt others. Our pride can kill other people, spiritually and physically and emotionally. In all kinds of ways, our pride can be a very destructive thing to ourselves and to others. God does not like it. In Acts 8, the humbleness here we find the one that is willing to ask for help. once a year, maybe sometimes twice a year, I'll get a text from somebody because they're taking a college course. I know lots and lots of people, they're taking a religion in college, and they've got to ask questions, so they call me up, and they'll have all these little theological questions of where this came from, what that is. They'll have these theological questions in their college class, and they'll call me up and think I just have the answer off my head for them. Sometimes it's a simple question. Sometimes I don't even know what they're asking. I'm sorry, I don't even know what they're asking. I don't know what. Well, don't you know the Bible? Yeah, I do, but I don't know what they're asking. I don't know. And well, you're supposed to be a preacher. Like, well, sorry, I don't mean I know the Bible backwards and forwards. I don't mean I know everything, and I really don't know what this professor's fishing for, because I don't know him or what the way he worded it. I don't know what he's asking. But I used to find it hard when it was someone that I was working with, I was inviting, I was spending time with, someone that I had put hours and time and prayer in trying to get them to come to church. When they call and ask me a question, I felt like I had to throw an answer out. It actually took me a long time to be able to say, I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to say I don't know, but that's the right answer. That's the right answer. And we find here that that's exactly what we see in Acts 8. How can I? Verse 26. And the angel of the Lord spake unto Philip, saying, Arise and go toward the south into the way that goeth down from Jerusalem into Gaza, which is desert. And he arose and went, and held a man of Ethiopia, a eunuch of great authority under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who had the charge of all her treasure, and had come to Jerusalem for to worship, who was returning and sitting in his chariot, and met Isaiah the prophet. Then the Spirit said unto Philip, Go near and join thyself with this chariot. And Philip ran thither to him, and heard him read the prophet Isaiah, and said, Understandest thou what thou readest? And he said, How can I, except some man should guide me? And he desired Philip that he would come up and sit with him. And Philip did. And he got this picture went on. But read this from verse 31. How can I, except some man should guide me? And then he accepted Philip's guide. Who are we willing to accept guide from? Our pride will prevent us from asking, and our pride will prevent us from listening. Again, to reflect to the conversation Zach and I had this morning, was talking about the young caseworkers that come out. A lot of times parents don't listen to them because they're too young. Who are they? No credit. Sarah and I teach classes together. Some of the classes that we have together. She's younger, she's a girl, sometimes they don't listen to her. And some of our students that we have in our classes don't listen to her, and she tells me, you need to talk to them. So when I talk to them in class afterwards, they'll, oh yeah. And it's the same thing Sarah had already told them when they talked to her, that they won't listen to her, they do me. And other ways around, sometimes I talk to people, and I can tell when I'm talking to them, you're not paying a bit of attention to me. You're not accepting a word that I say. And on the same token, though, to be fair, there are times I talk to people and I'm not listening to them. I'm not paying attention to what they're saying either. It's something that our flesh is prone to do. If you value your input more than someone else's input, you're not going to listen to theirs. If you think you know more, your position you put yourself in mentally will affect how you listen to others. It does me, it does the people I deal with, it does you, whether you acknowledge it or not. Your pride can prevent you from listening. May we always be like this Ethiopian here. May we say, how can I accept some man guide me? Allow ourselves to be guided. I want to close in James 4. James 4. We have wars, stripes, and fightings, and battles. We have all the things going on. A lot of times it's because of our lust. I looked at it a few services ago. But in James 4:1 says, From whence come wars and fightings among you? Come they not hence, even of your lust that war in your members? You lust and have not, you kill and desire to have, and cannot obtain, you fight and war, yet you have not because you ask not. You ask and receive not because you ask amiss, that you may consume it upon your lust. You adulterers and adulteresses, know ye not, the friendship of the world is enmity with God. Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of God. You think that the Scripture saith in vain, the Spirit that dwelleth in us lusteth to envy, but he giveth more grace. Wherefore he saith, God resisteth the proud, but giveth grace unto the humble. Submit yourself therefore to God, resist the devil, he will flee from you. Submit yourselves therefore to God, then resist the devil, and he'll flee from us. But above that, it said God will resist the proud, but he'll give grace to the humble. We want to talk about our grace. You can't talk about grace and be pride at the same time. Grace will make you humble and meek and lowly. You can't be all proud of yourself and then humble. You can't be all arrogant and then be humble. Again, your pride, God resisted the proud. So hopefully we keep in check and consider that we need, be willing to ask God for help, be willing to ask others for help, be willing to accept help. And pride definitely goes before the fall. Any prayer question or announcements anybody may have this evening? Thank you all for your attendance, encouragement, and pay attention to our attitudes and our reflections of our own self-value. And do remember Tuesday, we got a lot of things to pray for Tuesday. Do every day. Hope we spend time with prayer. Any other prayer question announcements? Stand and be dismissed then at this time.